Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel Scrap and Rabbit. In this video I want to give you another tip on how to extend the use of your dies. This time it's going to be the Spellbinders die. I'm working on this scrapbook layout. It's not quite finished yet, but I wanted these fancy corners on one of the layers of my cardstock. And I have this die, Nestabilities, and it's very pretty, and I like the corner on here, and I wanted to replicate that on there, and it's quite easy to do. So I started with a sheet of cardstock, and I wanted my little elegant corners to sit on top of my base cardstock so that they wouldn't get damaged. And I cut a 1/4 inch off the left and the top so that I can center this on there, and they will be protected by the base of the cardstock. They won't just be loose over the edge. So then what I did is I take my die and I position it over upside down over my cardstock like that, so that my corners match. And then I'm just going to tape this down like that. Actually, I'm not perfectly straight. Okay, like that. Now I'm going to want to cut from about there to there and just have this corner section here showing. So I'm going to grab my big shot. Now I don't know if I would use an electric machine to do this, because I want to be able to really control how far in I'm going to be sliding my die, because I don't want to damage the die. I'm going to place it diagonally like this in my big shot, and I'm going to cut just up to here and here. So I place my top layer on my die like that, and that's going to go from this end here to this end there. So the trick is to hold this in place. So I'm going to start by pulling this out, slide that in there. It's going to be hard to keep this in frame. So I position my die and my cardstock underneath my top plate, and then I can set this exactly where I want it to go. So when I roll this through, it's only going to cut up to the end of my top platform. So I want that to go like that. I'm going to start feeding it through. Like that. So now I can pull this out . Move this aside. I didn't bother with a piece of wax paper because it's just a very small area that I'm doing anyways. I can easily punch those out. So now here's my first cut. Okay, don't remove this just yet. I'm going to go and do my other corners first. So I'm just going to punch these out. And I'm going to do the same thing to my next corner. I'm going to tape this, and then I'm going to run it through the machine. So you do the same thing to all 4 corners. A little tip: when you're pushing your die in like that, you want to have it fairly straight so that this end and this end are straight across. Otherwise, this might touch the edge of your big shot if it's crooked. So you see here where my die is bending because this is touching? you want to make sure that you don't go so far that you bend your die. That's why I like using the hand crank machine. I wouldn't use an electric machine to do this because I really don't want to damage my die. So I've punched my 4 corners, and now I'm going to cut along the edges from this point here to this point here, and I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. So I'm just going to place that on my trimmer, and I line up the end of the top punch design with the end of the bottom one. And I can trim that like that. So there's my first one. I went a little bit too far. I should have been more careful. I went a little bit too far when I cut this. So then you do that to the 4 sides. Like that. I can use my scissors too. I'm not doing a very good job on that. I'm going to redo it for my next layout, but I would use scissors to get those corners in. So what you can do is, instead of starting at the very top, you can just go about 1/8 of an inch away and then just finish cutting with scissors, and I'll show you in a sec. I tried to do it too quickly. Like that. But that's just to give you a general idea of how to trim the corners. And I imagine you could do that with a whole bunch of these Spellbinder dies. And then you can finish punching out whatever little design things are left here, and cover this up with flowers if you like, if something is punched in but it's not punched all the way through. If you're layering your scrapbook pages like I did here, I haven't finished this yet. My elements aren't all tied down, but I'm going to cover up these little imperfections with flour like that if need be. So that's just a little tip. I hope that it helps you get more use out of your dies.